latest headlines for the viewers of ETS and around the world. My name is Sun-Young Park. Our headline today is coronavirus. It has been 4 months since the WHO described coronavirus as pandemic. Today, we'll see how the language of disease produces hate and violence. The naming of the virus in the early stage caused a global issue because many news media first mentioned the virus as Wuhan virus. In 2015, the WHO introduced guidelines to stop the practice of associating viruses with the landscapes, places, and regions where the first outbreaks occurred, thereby reduce stigma and negative impacts such as fear or anger directed towards those regions to the people. Shin Young has more from the United States.
Regardless of political relations, around 103 countries has restricted the entry of Chinese or China visitors to prevent the spread of coronavirus. However, the fear of corona fuels anti-Asian racism and xenophobia worldwide. I have met a Korean who is living in California and has experienced growing racism.
Could you please tell me what has happened?
As social distancing has begun, I went to a grocery store to save up some essential supplies like food and water at home. And since many thought it was needed, the store was full of people. But when I went to the cashier to pay for the products, nobody came near me as if I were the virus.
I have also experienced racism. However, before corona, it was to make fun of me only, not to harm or avoid me. I have received another report from an Asian student studying abroad. A stranger yelled on expletive about his race and said, "I don't want your virus in my country," and punched his face twice. Ironically, since violence involves physical touch, it proves that the racism is not just to avoid the virus, but to blame the cause.
I heard that such discrimination is also towards African American and Hispanic. Could you tell me more in detail?
Yes, it has begun to divide the country between those ready to explore the structural racism ingrained and those who are not. The racial disparity is shown by the number of people dying of coronavirus-related causes. Even pre-pandemic, 91.1% of colored racists living in South Africa are considered vulnerable to hunger. There are several consequences of having inconsistent nutrition. For example, African Americans tend to have a higher risk of having underlying health conditions, which weaken their lungs and immune systems. Shin Young, ETS News.
To stand against xenophobia, which has been more intense after the outbreak of coronavirus, some campaigns such as #WashTheHate and #I'mNotAvirus are conveying messages to stop racism. Unfortunately, even with the support of the campaigns, the phobia is still presenting in the shape of Asians being attacked on the street by strangers and male African Americans being forced not to wear masks because they are scared to be appointed as potential criminals by covering their faces. Then, what could we do to relieve this phobia? With me in the studio is Olivia Williams, a professor of mass media and communication, to talk about the influence of media in this chaos. As a media expert, what role do you think media should take in this social phenomenon of xenophobia provoked by coronavirus?
Racism is not a problem that can be solved at once by institutional changes. Many things are intertwined, including discrimination by perception and low economic status within society. Solving such problem is a long-term challenge. Thus, influential media should take the lead in the on-text era.
Then what would be the first step that the media should take?
Media should correctly name the virus to prevent a backlash against members of particular religious or ethnic communities. Now that we know the impacts of media, countries should establish a media law to follow the guidelines that the WHO provided. Once people recognize it as a problem, other legislative and systematic change to lessen the segregation will follow.
Racism has sadly been with us for a very long time, but we are aware of the fact that it should be eradicated, but we have been living with it. Unfortunately, coronavirus worsened it, and the topic of racism has come to the surface. Now, we could take this as an opportunity to root out the perpetuated discrimination for a better world. I'm at ETS, Sun-Young Park. Thank you.